G'day team, welcome to another installment of the U Project. Craig Anthony Harper. That fucking David Wrzowski just interrupting before we've even got underway. I honestly don't know if this is going to work. Look, we'll give him a chance. We'll give him 5 minutes. But no, it could be problematic. Before I say hello to the great man, Tiffany Ann Cook, hello.
How are you, Harps?
I'm good. I feel like this is going to be about 45 to 60 minutes of mayhem, but I love it. I'm already excited. David Wrzowski, welcome to the U Project, I think.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here. I want to say, it's so funny that you say that because I feel like any podcast I'm on, people go, well, this is the format. It's like, not for me.
Yeah.
Not mine. That's not, no,
Jeez.
Your format doesn't work for me.
Well, you are wearing a T-shirt. You are wearing a T-shirt that says "fuck your format." So
fuck your format.
Yeah. So I think. Well, I mean, obviously this is right in your wheelhouse, but I genuinely, for me, because I talk so much, I do so many. We do 7 podcasts a week. I'm on other people's shows. I have a background in radio, and I present for a living. The idea of planning for me is completely overrated. Like, I think if I have to plan to talk to someone, I'm in trouble because that's literally my job.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to go. You got to move on a dime. And I was listening, and I mentioned it before this big introduction that you gave for me. That was very lovely, by the way. Thank you very much.
I do what I can.
I was listening to that Professor Dr. Barrett, and you were talking about making assumptions and things like that, and thinking. I know what essentially you're saying. This is what I got from the interview. First off, that you're both geniuses. That's one. Two, that that what we do is we assume that somebody's going to finish the sentence the way that they started the sentence. And what the improviser's job is, because I'm a trained improviser, I'm a teacher. I teach improvisation. I direct improvisation. And one of the things that I offer is this. And if someone's going to say, "What's your elevator pitch?" My elevator pitch is this. I teach people to feel. I expose people to feel the feelings you're feeling the moment you feel those feelings. Feel the feelings you're feeling the moment you feel those feelings. And what that requires you to do is listen and pay attention to as much as you can in order to go, that just happened to me, and be aware of what happened to you, and to be present to that, and to be in relationship to what's happening. So when you and I are talking, I'm not ending the sentences for you. I'm waiting for you to say something that you didn't intend to say so I can jump the fuck all over you.
Well, I revel in that, and I welcome that opportunity.
I bet you're really good at it.
I'm no you. Let's just say that at the moment it's 15-0 Wrzowski, Harper 0. Do you think that people are, because we have the capacity to overthink and to worry and to be anxious and to feel like we've got to please people, that feeling what we're feeling when we're feeling it, but expressing that outwardly to others, is that too uncomfortable for a lot of people? Do they feel like, what if I'm invalidated? What if me saying what I'm feeling equals rejection or disconnection?
All those things are your ego. And what's your relationship to your ego? What's your relationship to that little monkey voice that you have inside of your head? Are you able to differentiate between what your heart is telling you and what that little monkey voice is telling you? Because they sound different. They sound different. They feel different. And one of the things that I teach people is that sense of what is it that you're feeling, and the right, and that you don't just have a right to say it. You have an obligation to say it. You have an obligation to free yourself. You have an obligation to free yourself, to express yourself in a way that frees yourself. And because you weren't put on this planet to be in shackles, and you weren't put on this planet to make small little moves. You were given wings when you were born, as my friend Alexander Billings says. You're given wings when you were born, and if you don't use them, then let me show you how to use them. Because one of the ways that we use is what are you feeling, and state it. The truth, Craig, is going to choke you. And you know it. This is what I mean when I said it. The truth is going to choke you. If you're in a situation and you're not speaking your truth, what words you want to come out aren't going to come out. And they're certainly not going to come out in a way that you're going to, when you're parking your car in the driveway after having the relationship or conversation with this person, they're not going to be it's not going to be very satisfying. On the way home, you're going to say, I should have said this, I should have said this, I should have said this. Well, you know what? Say it then.
Yeah.
Say it then.
I feel like there's, and again, this is just me thinking out loud, but so many people are worried about keeping everyone happy. You know, the enormity of conformity. I don't want to make waves. I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to get noses out of joints. If I say what I really feel and the shit's going to hit, you know, and so there's this kind of sometimes this compulsion to fit in and to belong and to not stick our head up, which obviously is a recipe over the long term for misery. But how do we get it? We still need to negotiate other people's reality, though, when we're stepping into our own power, though, right?
Clearly. Let's address one thing. Let's address one thing that you said a couple times. I get the Kiwis call it the high poppy syndrome.
Tall poppy, yeah. Australians too.
Yeah, tall poppy syndrome. For us, poppy means heroin. So it's a tall poppy. It's like tall poppy. Well, get that, and we'll put it in our arms. So it's a tall poppy syndrome, I guess. And that is, you know, don't want to stand out too much. You don't want to stand out too much. But for those of us who are politeness is a lie. And there's a time to be polite and there's a time not to be polite. There's a time to be polite and there's a time, and you're not being impolite if you're not being polite. You're being honest. I sometimes think that polite is the beginning of the word politics. And when you think about it that way, it's like, it's a lie. It's just a lie. So yes, there are times where you just have to navigate yourself through through the world. But when somebody is stopping you from you doing what you think you want to do, and we're not going to, and this is a process. If somebody is stopping you and consistently stopping you from doing what you want to do, at some point in a free society, you've got to go now. I've got to do that now. Where there are no men, excuse the expression, where there are no men, be a man. 1, 2, if not now, when? Those are both teachings from the teachings of our fathers, which is a book on a Talmudic type book. And for me, when I was 14 or 15 and I learned about that, I'm like, that I can live with. If not now, when? And Craig, you know, I've been following what you're doing. I've been thinking about what you know to listen to what you're doing. And you're a human, and you've got heart, man. And yet you also have this spirit within you that is going, I've got to speak up. I've got to speak up and it's not, I don't know what your politics are, but I know that you have a sense of what justice is. And I think that when you present to people, what you're doing is you're saying to people like know your power, know what power you have. And part of having power is holding back your power until you need to express your power. There's a power in that. And what you're offering is what you want to do is this, in a way, in a good way. You want to shatter people, and I don't mean what I mean is shatter the facade and say whoever it is that you think that you are. What if that's not true? What if you're something greater than that? You know,
I love it. You know, I feel like I do. I've spoken to I'm 57. I know you're thinking, fuck, he looks not a day over 56 and a half. You're welcome.
56 and 3/4. You're one of those 1963 people, aren't you?
That's me, dude. That's me. Yeah. So I've spent so much of my life talking to people who underestimate themselves and who are controlled more by, self-doubt and fear and self-deprecation and all of those things, which I can do to myself at times. But I get frustrated, and maybe you're the same, because you're trying to bring out the best. You're trying to open that door or help people open their own door to their power, potential, possibilities, and talent, right? And I meet people who are more talented than me every day, smarter than me every day, more potential than me every day. And they have me on a pedestal above them. I'm like, come on, this is ridiculous. The only reason I'm not saying I have zero talent. I'm saying that the most of the stuff that I've achieved, which is, you know, it's not grand, but it's okay. But for me, it's just been work, effort, and courage. Shut up.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
No. What are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing? What do you mean?
No, hear me out. It's like everybody's better than me, and I'm just, and I'm the low guy. I'm, Like, I'm the person that, like, I look up to all these people. Like, how dare you look up to me? Who do you think you are? Well, come on, man. Listen to what you're saying. How dare you talk to my friend that way? That's what I say to people.
But
That's
it's
what
real.
when a student says to me, you know, I'm the kind of person who just doesn't just doesn't take chances. And I'm like, okay, what have I said to you? Carla, you're the type of lady that doesn't take chances. Would that be nice? And you're like, no. It's like, then why are you telling you that? How dare you talk to you that way? I don't know about you, Craig, but I'm my own best friend.
Right.
And I know that it's tough. You don't have to be my best friend, but in the morning I wake up and I look in the mirror and go, yeah, you know what, you're 62 and maybe you can lose some weight, but in the meantime, that nose of yours is something. Or you know how to wear glasses. Or no one stands the way that you do. Or, like, I'm looking at myself and I've got to give myself kudos. So when I hear people, my students say to me, you know, that they can't do this or they can't do that, I'm like, what? You know, why are you putting yourself in a box?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking to people in China. I'm talking to people in the United States. You know, and there's a difference there.
I don't know if this is universal, but definitely in Australia. And look, thank you. All silliness aside, thank you for pointing that out. I was going to try and rationalize it. I'm not even going to do it.
Don't rationalize because
you'll fucking shoot me to bits.
I was yelling at my Bluetooth speaker today when I was listening. He was like, why are you telling yourself that? Because it's something. Maybe we should do this. You know, you can edit this out. But maybe we, you know, like, how do you, like, stop talking to yourself? You're a maven, man. You're a maven. That's a Yiddish word, Maven. You're an expert.
Well, am I? All right. Thank you. Fuck, shut up, Harps. Just accept the compliment. Move on. Why? Why? Okay, tell me. Maybe you can tell me because I don't know. Like, it seems that in Australia anyway, there is something of an epidemic of self-doubt and self-loathing and insecurity, like not good enough itis. It's like a condition. What do you think that's about? Why do we doubt ourselves? Why do we why are we so hard on ourselves?
Well, I don't know. For me, you're talking about Australia, you know, and I've been to Australia maybe 8 or 9 times. I work out of the improv conspiracy. Just a great. That's an improv company down there. And from what I've studied and what I know about the Australian people is, you know, your origin story has to do with people who were coming from, you know, England and the UK and were low self-esteem, and you were shit upon. You were the redheaded stepchild. So there's something there. Americans are like, we beat the Indians, and it's like it's not cool, but there's this feeling of we can do it. Now, when you say epidemic, I don't see that with y'all. I don't see that. The people that I know, the artists that I know who are Australian, or the artists that I know that live in Australia, that came from America and are expats, or came from Canada or expats, these people are strong and outgoing and enablers in the best of fashion. And I love your country, man. When I say that, honest to God, I love it. And when I heard that there was a lockdown, I couldn't get in, I'm like, I got to get in. But you got free will. And I also feel like some people, it's chronic. Yeah, some people have a chemical imbalance within their head. But some people, but let me just finish that. But some people think that it's chronic, but they're not. Where they say, I just can't stop thinking about that person. No, I'm sorry. You just won't stop thinking about that person. And here's the thing. It's okay. It's okay for you to keep thinking about that person on one condition, as long as you know that you're thinking about that person. Because it's the mindlessness that stops people from breaking habits, from getting out of those things. And we all know, and the heart, we hear it, and we start feeling sick about it, whatever it is that we're thinking of. And that's an indication that you're doing something wrong to you because you're feeling it.
It seems like you're much more than an improv teacher. Like I read some of the some of the, what are the words, the kind of endorsements or references, or, you know, what people are saying about you, and people talk about you like you're, you know, you're a teacher in a philosophical sense, like you help them understand themselves and explore themselves, and metaphorically open doors that maybe have been shut for a long time. And where does your personal philosophy come from? Is it innate? Is it part of your upbringing? Is it part of your search since you were a young adult? Where does your ideology and philosophy, and also your fucking passion, come from?
I would always look at a lot of people and I would go, how is it that these people know what they want to do? And I would look at it and go, what is it that I want to do? And all I could ever come up with was this: I want to change people's lives. And as I came up with that mission, that vague mission statement, I found myself going into having different opportunities open to me that helped me discover what those things are. Starting with theater, and then I starting with theater, and I was a photojournalist for a while. I was a photo editor of a paper for a while. I was in charge of, dozens of photographers, and I would connect to people and listen to people, and just in terms of empathy. I was also, as a child, I was the big-nosed, buck-toothed guy with horn-rimmed glasses who had no friends because his family moved all over the place. And somehow my mom knew that was going to happen, and I was going through that. And so what she did was she enrolled me when I was 8 in a theater class. And that just opened me up, cracked me open wide, my 8-year-old me, where I suddenly felt like a sense of I belonged, I could collaborate. I didn't have to be who it was that I was. And that's the great thing about improvisation, is you create your own story. And not only that, there was a passion about reading poetry and owning poetry, and the poetry being the prose that is the script, and being able to connect on that level. And then when I just had one opportunity after another, and one of them was when I graduated college, I moved back to Chicago. I lived in Chicago, and I went to college outside of Chicago, came back to Chicago at this wonderful time when Chicago theater was booming. I mean, it was booming. There's a theater company called Steppenwolf Theater Company, which is where John Malkovich came from, and Gary Sinise came from there, and they created this new universe in Chicago. And I just came from DeKalb, Illinois, where I got my photojournalism degree, and I was back in the theater world, and it was crazy. And I got a job. I got a gig in a theater company called Geese Theater Company for prisons, and they were doing non-comedic mask work with prisons across the United States. In 1 year, I traveled 20,000 miles over the United States, going from dozens and dozens of prisons, from small little joints small little prisons in small towns like Granite, Oklahoma, to Rikers Island. And dealing with, it was non-comedic, so what we had, and it was mask work, so we had to dive into that lifestyle. And what I learned there was a director named John Bergman. I saw this guy, John Bergman. He had so much fucking energy. And he was 12 years older than I, so he was 36. He was an old man. And I watched him, and I'm like, that energy, that passion, that focus, that direction, that intelligence, that questioning, I want that. That's what I want. And anybody, and I've had this discussion recently, a couple of days ago, with a student who said, a student who was talking to my girlfriend. I'm not going to talk about that, but another woman who said, she's in college, and I said, why are you taking chemistry? What got you in chemistry? And she said, I wasn't interested in chemistry until I saw this chemistry teacher. And I was like, I want what she has. And it's always a teacher. It's always a teacher. For me, it's always a teacher. And the teacher doesn't have to have a teaching degree. It could be somebody that is just saying, this is how you shop for groceries. And I'm like, I love the way you shop for groceries. And when you find somebody that you love, don't think of why don't I have that. Think I have that gene, and all I have to do is open it up and just ingest it. And one of the things that I learned, and I think that you learned this, and I bet Tiffany, you learned this too, Whatever it was that you think you're going to do, you're not going to do. And Professor Barrett thought that she was going to be a fucking MD, and she wasn't. And she became this other great thing. And you know what happened to her? You should listen to the podcast. It's really good. What happened to her is she did this one study, and it fucked up, but it changed her life entirely. Ha ha.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting where we end up. And it is interesting the paradigm from where we come. I grew up in a small country town with very traditional kind of, values, and in a religious household, maybe like yours. I don't know how religious yours was, but mine was. And, and where I ended up, it is just, in a million years, I wouldn't have predicted that I would do the things that I do. But I in a traditional model, like most kids, I came out of, I didn't go to university till I was a bit older, but I just started work. And within a short period of time, I realized I wasn't good at having a job. And it wasn't that I didn't like working or I was lazy, but I just didn't like having a boss. And I didn't like working in that kind of inflexible structure. And so I started my first business at 19, which was a screen printing business. Did you know that, Tiff?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Designing logos and printing things. Mm-hmm. And then I later on, I opened the first personal training center in Australia, did exercise science at uni, all this stuff, right? But I loved being in a situation where I could just decide what I wanted to do every day. And I had flexibility and creativity, and I could fall down and fuck up and get up and learn and unlearn. And I didn't have anyone dictating or controlling, because I just didn't work well in that. And the thought of me going, fuck, I'm going to have a job with a boss for 40 years. I'm going to kill myself. I can't. I can't do that. And to be able to, and I feel like that freedom of expression and going, you know what, I'm going to try this. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to learn something in the failure.
That's improvisation, man. That's it right there. Go out, try something, see what the fuck sticks, and what doesn't stick doesn't mean that something didn't stick. If it didn't stick, use that. If it didn't stick, use that.
Mm.
I think I mentioned this in the podcast with Bobby. It was like, when you're born, you accept a job. You just got a job. And here's your job. Your job is being you. And the job qualifications of you being you is different than the job qualifications of you being anybody else. And some people can do that, can be them at someone else's job. They can do that. But you and I can't do that. It's not that we can't do that. We won't do that. I won't do that. But I had to learn by going through all these things and going, wait a minute, I've discovered something that I love to do. And it doesn't all of a sudden, people say an overnight sensation, or they say tip of the iceberg. This is what you're saying, the tip of the iceberg. It's like, you don't know what I've gone through underneath. There's an iceberg underneath the tip of the iceberg. And all those things that I was doing led me to what it is that I'm doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the things that, there's a philosophy that I have, and the philosophy is this: you have everything that you need. You have everything that you need. You are enough. You are enough. And I love what, I keep going back to Professor Barrett, whatever, Dr. Barrett. She says you have a Buddhist approach, and I think that you know that, and you might have, read some Buddhist stuff about it. But the Buddhists got it down. We're like, you have no idea what's going to happen. So, replace ambition with gratitude. Replace ambition with gratitude. And that's the way you do the best improv scenes. It's not how it's going to end. The product of your life is the process of your life. And what I do is I slow everybody the fuck down. And I go, just talk to that person. And when they get to you, when they say something that stirs your soul, put your hand up and repeat what they said. And then express what it is that you're feeling based upon what they say. And that's called being a great listener. And that's called getting a passion out of life. And I bet you're like me, where you go, I've had some great conversations with, I know like A-list actors and all that stuff, and they're really wonderful people. But I remember going to a party when I was first starting out in improvisation. I had a conversation with a guy that worked for this company called Anderson Windows. And I remember having a 45-minute conversation with him about Windows and his work and what he did. And he probably doesn't remember who I am, but I remember that conversation. Like, this guy found his joy for that moment.
Yeah.
That's his joy for that moment. It doesn't mean forever.
When people work with you, like, firstly, how do people get to work with you? What's the process? How do they connect with you?
What I've been doing lately before the pandemic is I was traveling all over the world. I was probably putting in, I don't know, 250,000 miles in the airplane, if not more, every year. And then the pandemic hit, and I just took everything into this little rectangle, as so many of us have. And I put out a word on Facebook, and I said, I'm teaching classes, who's interested? And I got a bunch of people. And then one particular company, just a gathering of 50 plus year old improvisers said, we want you to do classes. And now I'm teaching online with them. It's called Vintage Improv. And I'm teaching with, when I was traveling, I would work with the Nursery, which is a theater company in London. And they've hired me for teaching a bunch of classes. And they just, if anybody's interested in a one-on-one, they just go to my website, send me a message from the website, and I'll talk to you and we'll connect. But I do private coaching, and that's how it usually works. And I'm working with people who aren't improvisers because I would rather work with somebody who's never improvised before in their entire life, because most of the improv rules are just stupid. And if you told me that you're going to do an improv show, I'm going to go, I'm not going to your dumb improv show, because I know every fucking scene that you're going to do, and I hate them all. Because you're not going to be authentic, you're not going to be real, you're not going to be vulnerable, and you're not going to be truthful. So why do I want to sit and watch your dumb dog and pony show? Everything that you've done, the cavemen did. That's not interested in. This is what I'm interested in. Tell me something that I don't know.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable. Yeah. Be open. Have low status. Give me pushback. Don't say yes to everything. I mean, I don't know how much you know about improvisation, but yes and is supposed to be the key to it. It's like, fuck yes and fuck all the rules. I hate them all. I hate all the improv rules. I hate them all. I don't teach them. And somebody today posted, there's the 10 rules of improv. And my first reaction was, oh, fuck this noise.
Yeah. To me, it seems contrary. Like the idea of there being rules around improvising or improv, or it's like a planned spontaneity. What? Right. It's like an oxymoron. Right. It's like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, you're either in the moment, you're in flow, you're out of your mind, so to speak. You're present. You're fully fucking present. You're not thinking. It's not logic. It's not strategic. It's you in that space creating and not even knowing what's going to fucking happen next. That's what it is for me.
That's it. And for me, I feel the same way. For me, improvisation is just like, improvisation's life, man. Improvisation for me is the same thing. It's an existential experience. And the thing about improvisation is when you're improvising, it's an existential experience. It's you, but it's not you. You're saying things, but you're not really saying those things. You're experiencing those things, but you're not really experiencing those things. So what I push on my students is this. Remember to call your partner a name that isn't their name, and please remember to call you, have them call you a name that isn't your name, because then you forget that you're you. Because what I'm doing in all improvisation is what I'm freeing everybody up. It's like, I'm freeing you from being you. I'm freeing you from being you. And what that means is this. That person that you wake up, this is it. All right, look at it. Look what I'm wearing. Everybody, I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm wearing a little, T-shirt, that sort of T-shirt. I got earbuds in. I got glasses. I got a big nose. And I got big eyes, and I'm very handsome. So every morning I wake up and I put on the Dave Rosowski costume. That's what I do. But I call it my clothes. But if Tiffany should come over to my place and put on my clothes, it's a Dave Rosowski costume. And what I'm saying here is this. It's just what you think you are and who you think you should be is not that doesn't mean anything at all. And I think that people really have a hard time with it. So Craig, when you say, we Australians and we do this and we're really concerned about all these things that people are saying, well, the best gift, I swear to God, the best gift that I gave myself was this. And everybody's capable of it. What other people think of you is none of your business. Yeah. What other people think of you is none of your business. And I mean, what I think of you and what your wife thinks of you and what your girlfriend thinks of you, it's none of your business. Like, I love it. Like, let me do my business. And I broke up with a woman, well, we were going to break up anyway, I think, but we broke up because she says, but I really care about what other people think about me. And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. We got to
Yeah.
be nice to each other. But at the end of the day, if I want to wear this shirt because I like it, I'm going to wear the shirt. And if you don't like it, whatever.
It's such an interesting thing, because people are going to think of you what they think of you. And like you said, yeah, we want to be nice and we want to live our values. We want to be a decent human. But at the end of the day, if my attention and focus and energy is always on whether or not someone likes me or approves of me, then I'm not going to be authentic. I wanted to ask you about.
Can you put a pin in that? Can you just remember what you're going to say?
Yeah, sure.
You got books, right? You've written books, right?
Yeah.
How many?
9.
9. Have you read the reviews? Have you read the Amazon things that people say?
Some.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does that change the way you write?
Nah.
Okay. Well then, fuck that noise. Fuck that. It's like you're capable of doing it. You do it all the time.
Yeah.
You got 9 books.
One of my lecturers at university first time around said to me, he said, if you want to keep everyone, he said, if you don't want to offend anyone, then say nothing, do nothing, stand for nothing, and be nothing. And I was pretty young, and I went, yeah, that's because I know, because I'm, I think what I think and I share what I share, and sometimes I fuck it up and sometimes I get it right, and sometimes people engage and sometimes people disengage. But I know that just statistically, because we have about 10,000 listeners a day, I know there's going to be a percentage of people who think that right now this is dog shit, and other people are going, wow, this is fucking fascinating. And other people are going, I wish that dude would talk slower. I don't know what he's saying, but I'm kind of intrigued. And a myriad of other responses. And there's no right or wrong. There's just individuality, so
Right.
What I was going to ask you about, and thank you for pointing out what you did, I want to ask you about, I talk to people a lot about their identity, where they get their sense of self from. And it's like you talk about the David Rosowski outfit or costume. And for some people, they get their sense of self from their face or their body or their looks or their Instagram profile or their job or their bank balance or their athletic prowess or their brand or reputation, right? How do you deal with, what are your thoughts around identity and stepping away from that to become something or someone else?
What does that mean, become something or someone else?
Like when you are improving, when you are literally, you're playing a role. You're not trying to be you. You're trying to be something else. But I feel like we're so entrenched in our identity, the framework through which we process the world and the pigeonhole that we put ourselves in. It's like when I say to people, tell me about you, invariably they tell me about their job or where they live or their house or their car or their children or their status. I go, well, none of those things are you. That's just shit that's in your life. Tell me about you. And they don't know what to fucking tell me. I go, well, are you a brand? No. Are you a house? No. Are you a title? Are you a job? Are you a bank? No. Well, fuck all that. Tell me about you. They go, oh, I've got nothing left.
Wait, you got 3 questions in there. There's just too many questions. You got breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all those questions. Because I feel like one of the questions that you had for me was, when I'm in an improv scene, how do I know who I am? Is that one of the questions?
Well, how do you not be you? How do you leave behind?
This is how I not be me. Everything that I'm doing is based upon what it is that that I see in my partner. So if you and I are in a scene together, and I prescribe to something called the viewpoints. The viewpoints, there are 9 viewpoints, and I'm not going to get into it. 9 viewpoints come up with, but this woman, Mary Overly, came up with the 6, and then these 2 women, Anne Bogart and Tina Landau, came up with the other 3. It's always women. It's always women.
They're geniuses.
At the head. Well, here's the reason. Because it has to do with emotion, connection, nurturing, love, vulnerability. So anyway, these 9 viewpoints codify everything. They it's like no matter what you do on stage, it's one of the viewpoints. And what I will do, and one of the viewpoints is called shape, and I'm just going to get shape is this. It's essentially also known as body language. If somebody's standing in a scene, I've got my arms crossed and I'm looking at you sternly, and I think this also has to do with Professor Barrett's thing about how do you know when somebody looks angry, but I'm not going to get into that because that's somebody else's, and I don't need the pressure from some Harvard fucking genius. Anyway, so it's this. If somebody's looking like this and I'm in a scene and it looks to me like they're angry, I'm going to feel it. So what happens is in a lot of improvisation, you take a suggestion. Fuck your suggestion. I don't like a suggestion. I don't take a suggestion. The suggestion comes from my partner's shape. So if you and I are standing on stage and you got your arms crossed like this, and you've got your arms crossed in front of you because people can't see me, and your head is down, and it looks to me, it feels like you're angry. It feels like you're angry. And I'm going to say, Jerry, you got to calm down. And the moment that I say, Jerry, you got to calm down, I'm not being me. I'm just noticing things that I historically notice. They're not. They're just looking like they're angry. They may or may not be angry. And then they throw something at me, and I'm like, why do I want to be me? Why do I want to be me? What I want to do, Craig, is I want to get in trouble. I want to get in trouble.
Go on, do it.
When I'm in a scene, I want to get in trouble because I want to get, because in a scene I'm not me. And I'm past the point of somebody saying, Dave, you said to somebody that you love them in that scene. Do you love them? What do you think Laura thinks? And it's like, that wasn't Dave. I believe that guy's name was Daniel. And Daniel died when the lights went down. So at that moment, I get to be somebody else, because why the fuck do I want to be me? I'm me all the time. Right? So I get to say that thing that I wouldn't say. And this is what I teach my students too, or I teach anybody. I get to say, and here's going back to another question you have. I don't teach an improv class. It just looks like an improv class. It's a class on presence and awareness. That's all that it is. So what I say is to an improviser is this: you're not you, so you might as well do this. You could say what you've always wanted to say, but you never had the balls to say. You could say what it is that you once said, but you get to say it better than the last time that you said it. You get to say something that you saw somebody say on TV and you thought that was a cool thing to say, so now you get to say it. Like, say what it is that you wouldn't say. Be what it is that you don't think that you can be. And one of the things that ends up happening, yeah, I'm talking quickly, but they have that thing on when you listen to podcasts, you can slow it down. That's not my problem. That's their problem. They're just not listening at the right tempo. So one of the things that we get to do when we're on stage is not be us, to make that choice. And one of the things at the beginning of a scene is for me to go, your obligation in this scene is this: to determine what makes this day different than any other day. That's it. And we start tabula rasa. We start empty slate at the beginning of the scene. And you look at your partner, it looks like they're angry. And you get to say to them, you don't have to be angry. And they could go, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have to be so pissed off all the time. And we got ourselves a scene.
We certainly do, Brian. Now step the fuck back and relax.
Right.
Fucking chill out. Will you chill the fuck out? You're too intense. All right, what is this about? I've spoken to you before. That's it. I want to do it. Who makes the best? This is probably a dumb question, but I don't know what question to ask you. Oh, there, I did it again. Don't do it. Who makes the best students and why?
This is the same thing about what makes the best humans is who's listening to you and who's paying attention to you and who's responding to you based upon what you said, not what they think that you said. Because in Milan Kundera's book, I remember a character in Milan Kundera's book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I think there was a waitress who noticed that people didn't listen to each other. They would talk and just waited for the other person to stop talking so they can get in what it is that they want to say. A good listener is a great student. A listener that's emotionally available is a great student. Those are great students, but those are great people. Those are people that you want to sit next to on an airplane. Those are people that you want to, share a table with at a cafe that's too crowded, that sort of thing where you're going, you're listening to me and I'm listening to you. I remember when I was married, my wife, who's a very wise person, we went to a party. She goes, do you remember talking to that Eleanor? I'm like, yeah. What did she tell you? And I went, I just can't remember. She goes, yeah. You never asked her about herself. You just kept talking about you. And I went, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That will never happen again.
Wow. The fact that
And
one, that she would have that awareness and insight, two, be brave enough to tell you, and three, that you would be humble enough to take that on board and do something that with that is quite exceptional.
Craig, she's my partner.
It doesn't make
She
any
was my
difference,
partner.
dude.
I know,
she was.
I know. But at the same time, isn't that the person that you want to be with? Where somebody says something to you, and of course your knee-jerk reaction is to go, "Who the fuck? Go fuck yourself." But then again, you go, "You notice something, and you're mostly kind to me, so now you're saying that to me, and so there must be some lesson in that."
That is an interesting point that you bring up about, you know, like when I talk about the human experience, I talk a lot about the subjective nature of being human. So the only person who thinks like me is me, and the only person who lives in my reality is me. And, you know, for me to understand you, I don't need to agree or align with you, but I probably need to try and understand your version of right now. What's Dave, or as I should say, Brian's version of right now, like what's going on, right? You with me? And so you with me, without me, with me, June, without me. That's from a movie. That's from was that Tom Cruise and whatever. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm just thinking about, I lost my train of thought, Tiff. I threw myself.
Just improv. Go, bro.
No, it was you're talking about. It was right. I was real now. I'm in Tom Cruise land.
Now you're in Tom Cruise. Okay, so what I was going to ask you, and maybe that'll come back to me, but I was going to ask you about, so when I have been working with somebody over the years as either an exercise scientist or somebody more in the psychology space, right? Human behavior, high performance, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of overlap between what you do and I do, in that we're trying to get people to optimize some area of their life or perform or execute or create an outcome that they want to create, right? But when I talk to somebody, let's say someone comes in and says, I want to be in shape, whatever that means. So there's a bunch of variables, you know, in genetics and age and training background and medical issues and time and resources and availability and mindset. So every person that I work with, the way that I work with them is individual, because I'm dealing with individuals. I'm not dealing with clones. And so I have to teach and coach and support differently every person. So is that the same, even though you're working in the same space, but every person that you work with has got a unique background, personality, skill set, perspective? How do you navigate all of that difference?
It's so cool that you said that, because I think that's foundationally my methodology. That's how I access my methodology, is my improv methodology, is looking at every person and saying, how do you troubleshoot? How do you problem solve? How do you see the world? How do you troubleshoot? How do you problem solve? And how do you see the world? And each person does that, and they're individual, going back to Professor Barrett when she was talking about pizza. And by the way, fuck her fucking thin crust pizza bullshit. Coming from Chicago, she can go fuck herself. And you know what? I will take her to the mat. I will meet you on Harvard Square, and we will go to the mat. Anyway.
And big shout out to the prof.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll hear from her. Hi, I'm Professor Barrett, and I went to Harvard. One of the things that I look at, and it's this, where I'm looking at a student, and I'm not saying, because Craig, you know this, one size don't fit all. It didn't fit for you. It didn't fit for Tiff. It didn't fit for me. So I'm looking at this person. I'm going, how do they look at the world? What is missing in their toolkit? And very often what is missing, you know, what could be missing in what it is that they're doing is they're not empathetic, or they're listening, or they're making assumptions, and they're not in the moment. And that for me is like, okay, so this is what we do, man. We do an exercise, and you could do it, Craig. You do it all the time, I bet, where you're going, I'm going to design right now on the spot. I'm designing an exercise just for you right now, just for you. I'm not going to say that because I'm just not bullshit. It's true. I'm going to stop and I'm going to go, okay, talk to me about your favorite dog. Talk to me about your dog. You know, if I feel that they're lacking love, I'm going to talk to me about your dog. And then they'll talk to me about the dog. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's what's missing. And so when somebody comes to you and says, I want to be in shape, my first question is, what does that look like to you? Define shape. Because when you define shape, You tell me what you want. Because I need you to tell me who I am to you right now. And what that means is I need you to tell me what you need from me so I know how to talk to you.
Great.
Because if we have the same picture, if we have a sketchy outline of a picture, as we keep talking, that picture becomes clearer and clearer. But it can't start out, and you know this, man. I'm sure that you know this. You know trainers who come in and it's like, this is the way we're doing things, and it's like, you're a bully, dude. You're a bully, and you're not listening to me. And this is going to be a real short session.
Yeah.
Because all that I know is like, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the paradoxes of being trained in a system. As an exercise physiologist, trainer, whatever, surgeon, counselor, whatever, psychologist, you need training, you need programming to a point, but then there's how do I apply that with a human being? How do I disseminate that? How do I used to say to my trainers, I had over 500 trainers work for me, David, and I used to say to them, this is going to sound contrary, but on a level, I don't care how much you know about anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, nutrition, progressive overload, fucking energy systems, all of that matters. But if you can't create connection, you're fucked. If you can't build rapport, you're fucked. If they don't understand, and this sounds weird, but if they don't like you, you're fucked, because they're not coming back to train with someone they don't like.
No.
But you can't. Like, this is something that is on the job development and awareness, and nobody is teaching anyone that at university.
Well, it's, again, I go back to this, I just fresh in my mind. Dr. Barrett saying no one teaches you how to be a professor. They teach you what you need to teach, but they don't teach you what you need to be a professor. Yeah. So when she says, she's 30 years old and she's getting, and I love what she said about, women are seen as like that uppity lady and, like that sort of thing. But what you do is you experience it. You know what I mean? You experience it. And it's what you were talking about where, somebody said this thing to you and you went, wait a minute. They found you to be intimidating, which I thought was a very interesting thing, because I hear that a lot. That people think you're intimidating. No, I hear that a lot, that people think that I'm intimidating. And my first thought is like, somebody once sent me an email saying, we have a quote that we want to use of yours and we want to put it in publicity. Did you say it? And I was like, I don't remember saying it. So I Googled to see if somebody else heard me say it. And nobody heard me say it, but unfortunately I found this, a Reddit thread that said, would somebody please explain Dave Rosowski to me? And I don't know, it's like a Reddit thread by some stranger saying, would someone please explain Dave Rosowski to me? And I'm like, oh no, all right, Dave, remember, what other people think of you is none of your business. And to go into that and to say someone went, he screams I have never taken his class, but he screams at you, he gets in your face and he makes you do the scenes that you want to do. And my first thought was, fuck that, they got me spot on, because that's exactly what I do. I get in your face because I'm passionate. And at the end, and he screams at you, yeah, because I'm passionate. And here's the thing, Craig, and when I was listening to you, I'm going, I'm sorry if you can't take my volume. If you can't take the volume, then I don't know what to tell you, man. And I'm teaching in class now when somebody said there's going to be a pastor in it and you can't use the F word. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I tried it. It lasted 2 weeks out of 6. And I'm like, it ain't going to work. So who we are is who we are. And so I used to have women walk out of my class. There was like when I think about all the people that walk out of my class, most of them are women. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing something wrong. So there's there's a corporation called Sears that used to be here in the United States. And they had a commercial called Come See the Softer Side of Sears. And it was like, it's not just tools, it's also, we have linens. And I was like, you got to walk in here with the softer side of Sears, man. You can start out with the softer side of Sears and then you could build your way up. And this was all like, I'm too anxious and I've just got to get this information out and I don't have time. And then I just slowed it down, like, this is what it is. I don't know. This is what it is.
And did you have less women leaving in droves?
I haven't had anybody leave the rectangles since 2020, but I've had people walk out, and I would chase after them, and I would go, "You can't leave because I got to know what I did, so I never do that again." But that means that you've. Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, most people would not ask that. That is I believe that there's a relationship between the quality of our questions and the quality of our life. If we go from the question to, okay, so the question, the answer, now I can do better, think better, create better. Aren't we also, aren't you, whatever it is that you're doing, aren't you modeling for these people how you'd like for them, the options of how they live their life? Aren't you modeling that for them? For me, I don't try to model for people. I try to just, I talk about things that I often have very little, like this for me is new territory. I'm learning as I'm going. And I share my thoughts and ideas and values and experiences, but at the same time, I'm very aware that people are not me. They don't need to be like me, think like me, behave or believe like me. And I go, I'm not, by the way, don't try and be a version of me because I'm not the high watermark for anything. But, if I say...
You stop it.
You stop it. No, but do you know what? This is truly what I believe. When I say I'm not the high watermark, people have heard my story, but this is my 4th podcast. The first 3 didn't work. I've worked like a fucker since I was 17 and it's just like nothing fell on my lap. I was not genetically gifted. I wasn't hilarious. I wasn't academically brilliant. And this is not self-loathing. This is basically my journey. And so for me, I have great faith in my ability to persevere and put up with more shit than most people. But on no level do I think I'm gifted, amazing, talented, or special. And I'm okay with that. But I also have to acknowledge that I've done some good shit and I'm quite good at this now through work and effort and skill development over time. But am I a natural? The only thing that I'm naturally good at is communication. Everything else for me has just been work.
But that is a way that you're that's one of the things that you're modeling. You're not intentionally modeling it, but you're being who it is that you are in your unadulterated version and your freest version. And people are, and I'm going to say attracted to you, but I don't mean in a cult way. I mean, people are attracted to that freedom. People are attracted to that sense of flow. And that, when I say modeling, that's all that I mean. Now, I want to go back to something that you said. It's so funny because you said this is your 4th podcast. The first 3 didn't work. The first 3 worked. They worked to get you to the 4th.
Yeah.
And you had to go through it in order to get to it.
Yeah.
And so for me, you go, those, and those weren't failures, Craig. And you know that. Because you learn how to do it. And your sense of perseverance is really your sense of, I'm going to figure this out, man. I'm going to figure it out. And for you, that's part of who it is that you are. And there's this feeling of like, oh, Strummentong and everything that I've done, it's like a failure. But there's also like, I'm not done figuring this out.
Yeah.
And I bet that there are many examples of that in your life. Where it's like, and we all get to look at those things. We go, at Second City, we haven't, at Second City when I was on the main stage at Second City, when I was performing with Carell Colbert and those people. One of the things that you realize when you're writing a show is the failures give you the success because it puts you on the path. And I have a TED Talk, and I don't know if you heard the TED Talk, but in the TED Talk, I talk about this thing that I did that was just like, what are you what did you do? And I decided in a moment, without giving anything away, that there's a path for me to take. I did something in front of 2,500 people in this theater in Chicago, and it was like really embarrassing if I wanted it to be embarrassing. But instead, I decided to go, that happened. How cool. I'm here in this theater right now watching this play. Let's think about all that stuff later and see what the fuck we do with it. But in the meantime, I'm going to love my life right now.
What was it like working with those uber talented actors, Steve Carell and Colbert and all the other? I know you've worked with a myriad of people, and where, you know, as human beings, and I know we don't have 2 hours to dissect it, but was that hard work? Was that fun work?
At first, you're looking at it going, how do you do what it is that you do? You're going, you are really, really funny. And it's like, what am I doing here? And then you realize this. They can't be funny without you. They're not stand-ups. Yeah. And then you realize that gives you a sense of place and a sense of where do you fit into the jigsaw puzzle. But there are also times where you look back on it and you go, these are the funniest fuckers on the planet. And what was it like? When I met them, they were just people. And yet when I first met Steve Carell, we were auditioning for a play, and we were in the lobby ready to audition. He's just a guy named Steve, and I walked in, and then we both auditioned, and I was like, if this is the way that improvisers improvise, I got to get the fuck out of here. And yet he got cast in this play, I got cast in this play, and you realize that you need the other people in order for you to shine, and they need you to shine, and you learn how to collaborate, and you learn how to connect. And you also go, you're a genius, and I cannot not be with you. And here's the greatest thing. I know this is weird, but you go, I'm on stage with this person.
Yeah.
I got the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
And
how great is that?
And oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's so great. And then when you watch their success, you go, this is phenomenal. And there are times, you know, at the beginning where you go, where's my success, and how come I don't have that? And it's like, and this is true of anything that we're doing. Everybody gets their own story, and everybody gets their own journey, and everybody gets their own path. And if you want to have Steve Colbert's life, you know, everybody's got tragedy, and Steve Colbert has tremendous tragedy in his life, and it's very public. You know, if you want Steve Colbert's life, you want to change it, you want to be CBS, have your own television show, you want to take his life, well, realize that 2 of his brothers and his father was killed in a plane crash. You want that part? You want that part that you live with for the rest of your life? Is that what you want? And so for me, it's like, again, trade in, you know, the idea of like, just be grateful. Just be grateful for what you have.
Do you feel like, I don't know, when we get real deep and philosophical and we step back and we talk about life and meaning and purpose and calling and, you know, all that kind of stuff, do you think that we choose our path, or on some level it's predetermined? Like, are we genetically hardwired that that's where we should go? Or do we sometimes have an experience, a moment, an encounter that shapes us or influences us to want to go there?
Oh, I think it's that. I think something happens where for some reason we're at this one place and we witness something and we go, how do I get more of that? Yeah. You know, we witness that thing. I mean, for me, I go back to my mom bringing me into this drama class when I was 8 or 9. And then the teacher saw something in me, and she cast me in a play with adults. And I'm like, I'm the only kid in this play. And I remember my lines. My lines were, look at the birds, look at the birds. That was my line. And I hope I was looking at birds. I can't remember. So it was like, look at the birds, look at the birds. And I remember being backstage panicking, just panicking, because I'm 9 and there's 300, 400 people out there. And I've never been in front of those many people at one time. And I remember just about to cry. And one of the stage managers was one of the stagehands was there. Her name was Davida. And I remember it. Davida walked up to me. She grabs me to her bosom. She pulls me close and she says, everybody out there likes you.
Oh, wow.
They just can't wait for you to tell them what you need to tell them. And at that moment, I mean, I knew 2 things. I knew I was a heterosexual man, because that was really something. And I also knew, like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And I think that that phrase is so important. I can do this. And when I find myself like trying to figure out how to screw the lamp into the fixture, my first thought isn't I can't do this. My first thought is I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. And I remember the first time that I said I can do this. It was a flight from Los Angeles to Auckland. Or maybe it was Los Angeles to Auckland or something. And I was like, don't poop on the plane. Don't poop on the plane. You don't want to be 12 hours in the air and go to that toilet. And sure enough, the moment that I said that, my motility just went. I was like, ugh. And I remember walking to the toilet door and going, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this.
What's your issue? What's your issue with shitting on a plane, bro? What's that about?
Oh, 15 hours? How many asses were on that thing?
Oh,
you know, everybody like going McDonald's food and all that stuff in there. And this is before COVID.
Chill out, you bloody germaphobe. Hey, I don't want to ask you a lame, boring question, but I'm going to. Favorite movie or top 2 or 3 movies for you? Just you don't have to explain why, but just what do you love all time?
A movie. This is okay. If you're gonna ask this question again, I'm not telling you how to do your job. You're doing a fucking great job. I love the questions like, if you can watch anything right now, what would it be?
Dave. Okay, so sorry, Brian. If you could watch anything right now, what would it be?
Oh, do you mean what's my favorite movie of all time?
Fucking hell! Can you edit that bit, Tiff?
I cannot not watch The Godfather 2. I cannot not watch that. And there's another movie that is the dumbest movie. And if you put it on right now, I'm like, oh, yeah, fuck all the rest of the plans. It was the only James Bond movie that wasn't done by Universal. And it was called Casino Royale. And 5 directors directed it. James Bond was Peter Sellers. And the enemy was Woody Allen, and the music was Burt Bacharach and Herb Alpert. The song "The Look of Love" is from that. Wow. And it's just stupid. And in 1967 or 68, when it came out, for some reason my folks took me to see it. And it was like, this is sexy. This is a sexy movie. Look at all the sexy ladies. It doesn't sound like I'm just a dirty old man. Like, she pulled me to her bosom, and it's a sexy movie. But it's really a sexy movie. It's a really sexy 60s movie. It was just crazy good. So there. That was really good. What about you?
Yeah. I like inspirational shit. I like, I tell you my favorite movie that very few people have heard of or watched, and it's got Jean Reno in it, and it's called The Professional.
Oh, I've seen it. I
absolutely love that movie.
Oh, Natalie Portman?
Yeah, Natalie Portman when she was maybe 10.
Oh, yeah. That's a phenomenal movie. That is a surprising, beautiful movie. That relationship is so smashing and beautiful, and it was just a good kill. The people got killed in that movie too, right? There's really good violence. I'm so
glad. Well, of course you would know it, but like, I've spoken about that movie with 100 people, and 98 have never even, let alone not watched it, never heard of it. But it is, if I gave everyone the premise, they'd say that is just horrendous. But because he essentially teaches this young girl to be a hitman / woman, right. And but anyway, just watch it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
it sounds like a pedophile movie, but it's not.
No, it's a really good movie, and it's surprisingly moving. Like, oh yeah, he's just this, cyborg. Not really,
but Craig, look at your hat. Look at your hat.
I am him. But if
look at your hat,
if you saw the shit that's under here, hang on.
Right.
Speaking of movies, Back to the Future.
But I'm just going. You got the hat. You got it all. All that you need is a trench coat and a long gun.
And a bit of that.
You got it. Yeah, those guns. But yeah, I love that movie. That's really a great film. Great.
Now, mate, we got to wind up, but so much appreciate you talking to us. Tell tell everyone where they can reach you, connect with you, get a one-on-one for for $1 million per hour. How does that happen?
Go to my website, David Rosowski, davidrosowski.com, and just send me a message from there. Just go to contact and send me a message. And if you're interested in some of the things that I've done, improv scenes that I've done, because mostly I've done improv scenes, you can go to YouTube, and there's something called Rosowski Performs. It's a YouTube, I think it's a YouTube, not a channel, but it's one of my things that I put together. And there's some really great scenes on that. So there.
We appreciate you, good sir. Stay on the call. Thank you so much for being on the U Project. Tiff, good luck.
Wait, I interrupted on the way in. I'm going to interrupt.
It's all good.
I love him. I love him. I've just had the best hour.
I want to have dinner with him. When you're in Melbourne, dude, yell out, please, so we can go and hang out.
Please.
I will take you to the best restaurants in Melbourne.
Where are they? Name one.
Mate, there are a bunch of them. Like Melbourne is renowned for awesome food.
Hashtag Rosowski Eats Food, and you're going to see a bunch of great Melbourne restaurants there. Because when I go to Melbourne, the first thing I do is there's a street, I can't remember the street, like a lot of restaurants coming down. It's like just spacing me out right now.
Is it Lygon Street, Chapel Street?
Lygon. It's Lygon. Like I will just walk up and down Lygon and go, I'm going to find something. And I do. And Lygon is just my favorite place to go.
Yeah, it's beautiful there. There's some of the best Italian restaurants ever. Yeah. Mate, you look after you, stay on the call, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Right back at you.
Thanks, everyone. Love you guts.